Good morning to you. It is the 2nd of August 2019. You're watching UBC Inspiring Uganda. This is Business Day. My name is Rowena Kajumba. I'll just take you straight into our reports here because we have an amazing guest who will be talking to us in regards to this particular discussion. Now, of course, we know there is the inaugural Tanzania-Uganda Business Summit that is coming up next week, not so far from now. And of course, on the 4th, we'll be seeing the different players, Tanzania, Uganda, coming together to showcase what they have to offer. And of course, they'll be able to make ties and come up different ways of improving, or rather, improving the business environment between the two countries. And then on the 5th, that's when we'll see the heads of state come together, and they'll be able to, of course, have further discussion in regards to improving the business partnership between Tanzania and Uganda. So many things that we've been talking about, and one of those things that we all know about is the revival of the Central Corridor. And just the other day, we're talking about how best we can utilize, for example, improving our business, where we saw I think it was World Food Program, where they're able to come through to Port Bell there. They said it was very easy transportation within the water transport, and of course maritime is very, very important to us. But seems like as much as these are very important, there's a number of things that need to be looked into, of course, as we'll see that discussion. But before we get into the discussion, let us take a look at these two stories back to back in regards to the summit and, of course, what happened there just around the corner there in Port Bell.
Uganda and Tanzania are cementing their bilateral ties by boosting bilateral trade and flow between them. On September 4th and 5th of this year, Dar es Salaam will host the inaugural Uganda-Tanzania Business Forum.
The government of Tanzania and the government of Uganda have created an enabling environment for trade.
The trade forum, to be presided over by heads of state of Tanzania and Uganda, will raise awareness about investment and business opportunities that exist between the two countries. Local content participation in the East African crude oil pipeline project, which stretches from Hoima district in Uganda to the port of Tanga in Tanzania, is expected to top the two-day high-level discussions.
We're trying to make sure that instead of just playing the traditional political diplomacy, which we've been doing it for quite some time and we are doing it well. Now we are actually venturing into what is known as economic diplomacy. And the economic diplomacy, the tools are things like this, what we are doing now. A joint business forum between the Tanzania and Uganda to make sure that our people can trade, can do business, they can access capital, and then to improve the welfare of the people of our two communities.
The largest investment project, the East African oil crude pipeline between Uganda and Tanzania, will present immense opportunities for our private sector. Tanzania has discovered oil and gas, almost 15 trillion, which we may need for our iron ore in Muko to create steel. There are a lot of projects, the SGR, the vessels, investment in the vessels on Lake Victoria, the route between Mwanza and Port Bell. So there are so many areas, and we really want to explore these opportunities.
Trade between the two East African community countries has been increasing over the years. In 2016, the value of Uganda's exports to Tanzania was $70 million. However, a large volume of informal trade exists between the two countries, the East African community, and the entire Great Lakes region. The first of its kind joint business forum between Tanzania and Uganda comes at a time of increased business ties between the two countries as a result of oil and gas activities in Uganda, as well as efforts geared at boosting water transport on Lake Victoria. Dennis Igoa for UBC News in Kampala. This is the 43rd voyage of the United Nations World Food Programme consignment from Tanzania's Dar es Salaam port through Mwanza to Port Pearl in Luzira, Kampala. The southern route that has been dormant for over a decade seems to be the preferable route for WFP, which is involved in humanitarian food supply across East and Central Africa.
The ability in the last year to use this rail link has saved WFP over $2 million. That's the ability to feed 9 million people for one day. So this is a huge savings for us.
We've just had a wonderful voyage. We left Mwanza at about 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon. We were estimated to arrive at 10 and we landed at 10:15. So not only is this a wonderful way of transporting commodities between Tanzania and Uganda, it's a very efficient service. And this is what really attracted WFP to work with the railways on both sides of the border.
Although marine transport is cheaper compared to both rail and road, its uptake in the region is still below par, says General Katumba Wamala, the State Minister for Works. While receiving the consignment of food at Port Pearl, General Wamala urged the private sector to embrace water transport and also utilize the Central Corridor.
The only challenge which we still have is we need to encourage our people so that we have goods in and out. Not only goods in, but then no goods out. So we should have the business community to see how to exploit the relationship between the two countries.
His sentiments were re-echoed by the Tanzanian delegation headed by Aziz Mulima, the Tanzanian ambassador to Uganda.
Apart from the current railway lines, Tanzania is building the standard gauge railway from Dar es Salaam to Mwanza, which will reduce time and cost of transportation cargo to Uganda. And on this particular standard gauge railway, the Tanzania is going to put up the electric train, and the distance from Dar es Salaam to Mwanza will be about 10 hours.
Sasa hivi tunaunda meli kubwa sana Tanzania mpya kwa ajili ya abiria.
Currently in Dar es Salaam as well as Mwanza, we are rehabilitating some ships as well as building one new big one. When all that is done in the coming months, just be assured that we'll also be able to transport the public. The southern route has proved beyond reasonable doubt that it has an enormous potential to unlock trade between Uganda and Tanzania and other destinations in the region. For quite some time it had been the talk of reviving the Central Corridor.
But now is walking the talk. Dennis Igoa for UBC News at Port Pearl, Luzira.
With me in studios is High Commissioner Richard Kabonero, of course, Ambassador to Tanzania, Uganda, Tanzania, and of course very well represented. I can see that you're really pushing for this particular agenda that we're seeing, and we know that we do have strong ties with our neighboring Tanzania there. But you're very welcome, Your Excellency.
Good morning, glad to be here.
Glad to be here. Indeed. Thank you for making time. Busy time, I must say, because, you know, with all this that's going on. But first of all, just tell us about what this means for you, really, you know, in regards to what Uganda is going to take from this and what Tanzania is going to take from this at the end of the day.
Thank you very much for having me. The Uganda-Tanzania Business Forum is the first of its kind. It will take place on the 4th and 5th, starting with exhibition by companies that do business in Tanzania and Uganda from both countries, in the private sector, to exhibit their products and get to know each other, network, and look at opportunities that exist, followed by the business forum, which will bring together again the private sector, presided over by their excellencies, the heads of state of Uganda and Tanzania. And so we see it as a tremendous opportunity for our hitherto low volumes, because as you are aware, Uganda and Tanzania have had strong political ties for a long time, but the trade volumes are not where we want them to be. And so this is the best time to have this forum so that our private sector can trade and do business.
Now, of course, some of the things we're looking at or focusing on here is the issue of investment, improving the environment for that. But where are we now as we speak, in the current situation in regards to the investments with both countries working together here?
Cross-border trade has involved a lot of SMEs, small and medium enterprises, doing business across the borders. But the opportunities that the forum presents encourage venturing further, looking at the regional markets in East Africa, looking at the southern market, making sure that we take advantage of the huge projects that are underway. Both governments are investing in infrastructure. There is the East African oil crude pipeline, which is the single largest investment in East Africa currently, with attendant local content opportunities for our SMEs.
Now, we have talked infrastructure. Now, what does this mean to us at the end of the day? Because if we're looking at the oil pipeline, we're looking at the standard gauge railway, and of course, the revival of the Central Corridor and all the activities there that we are looking at, why is it so important to us at the end of the day?
The investment, the huge investment in infrastructure is aimed at reducing the cost of doing business, because transportation costs in our region were some of the highest in the world. So when governments invest in cheaper means of transport, either the standard gauge railway, the marine vessels, the aviation revival, for example, Uganda Airlines and Air Tanzania, all these are really aimed at reducing the cost of doing business. In fact, in the Business Forum, we have a segment about reducing the cost of doing business, cross-border payments, digital economy, investment in the railway and waterways, and then aviation. Finally, also in communication, because we're looking at exploring the one area network, in other words, making calls between Uganda and Tanzania cheaper by removing roaming and data charges. So these are some of the areas that we intend to tackle during the Business Forum.
So current situation, you are taking me through a couple of things that you said. Well, it's quite embarrassing. Tell us some of the things that are happening right now that, of course, you've hinted on what you need to improve, but what exactly is happening right now that the two countries have to get to this point?
The United Republic of Tanzania is building a standard gauge railway from Dar es Salaam port all the way to Mwanza. And then Uganda is also investing in rehabilitation of Port Bell and the standard gauge railway or the metered gauge. So what will happen is that our cargo, either exports or imports, arriving at the port of Dar es Salaam will get onto the railway, the standard gauge railway, to Mwanza, and then get on the vessels to Port Bell. This in itself will reduce the cost of transport by almost 40%. So it's really a big investment, but the ultimate beneficiaries will be our private sector and then also our people.
Indeed. So the gaps that we can identify right now, because yes, we did talk politically, the two countries are very, it's like a very tight, strong tied knot together. But when it comes to the business aspect, what was lagging us behind?
It's really sometimes the lack of knowledge of what exists on each side. For example, the Tanzanian business community may not know that you can come and register a business here in the shortest time possible. You don't need to pay all these fees. There's a one-stop at the Uganda Registration Bureau, a one-stop center. The Ugandans don't know, for example, that Tanzania exports a lot of rice here, and they have investments. For example, they have world-class hotels where they can now, you can have Tanzanian private sector invest in our tourism industry by building these lodges in our national parks. So the cross-border investment, but also the opportunities exist. It's just for us to bring them together, and that's why we want them to come on the 5th of September.
And make the two parties aware of
aware of what exists. For example, I know that we have explained our oil and gas sector and ECOP, but almost 900 kilometers of ECOP is in Tanzania, and it would allow the Ugandan farms, the SMEs, to provide consultancy, firefighting, security, camps, airtime. So there's something for everyone. And So Ugandan farms should not be limited to Uganda only.
Uganda
They should
yes.
go and look for opportunities across the border and vice versa.
Now we have the one-stop border posts or points, and looking at easing, you know, for all the traders and, you know, the in and outs within the countries. That sometimes, I don't know what it is exactly, but sometimes you find that our Ugandans back here at home will say we're having issues, you know, it's supposed to make things easier, and probably the same thing the other side. What could be the challenge in this particular case? Because as much as you're trying as much as possible to ease on the relationship between the two countries, things like that could, you know, come in every now and then.
I agree. You are referring to what we call the non-tariff barriers. This may be delays at police roadblocks.
Yes.
There may be work permit fees, which I talked
Which
about.
is very, yeah.
There may be a lot of documentation that's needed to cross the one-stop border post itself, or they may be as simple as providing, you know, restrooms at the one-stop border post for feeding mothers who are doing business. So we have addressed a number of them, and we continue to engage with the Tanzanian authorities on removing or eliminating these non-tariff barriers. They've reduced the police roadblocks from about 22 to 4.
Oh.
Therefore reducing the time that our trucks spend. We are also working to harmonize the trucking fees, because originally, for example, a Ugandan truck taking goods to Tanzania, they were being charged $500, and we want to harmonize that, to reduce it to about $157 for the truckers. So all that is aimed at reducing the cost of doing business.
Yes, and of course some of the things you'll be looking at in the summit. Now, we did look at the revival of the Central Corridor here. And there's something you had pointed out, that yes, we actually need to probably put more investment, or put more focus, for example, into our maritime or water transportation in itself. But there are a few challenges that come with them. Maybe if you could share with us.
Yes, one of the biggest challenges was the lack of vessels, what we call the roll-on, roll-off vessels. Because when the trucks leave the train, the containers, when they leave the train to get onto the vessel, it needs to be a smooth and quick operation. So what we had so far was the vessel was able to carry only 20 containers. And that would take a long time if you are going to move 200 containers. So government is already trying to invest in open vehicles, open vessels, so that the roll-on, roll-off stock can be a smooth and less costly measure.
Okay, very interesting. Now, I know we've hinted on a couple of things in regards to policy and things like that, that when we come together as the East African region, or like now we're going to have the Tanzania-Ugandan summit, how do you try to harmonize? Because some policies, you know, different countries may have different ways of doing things. We might agree on what we want to do, but those tiny little things that maybe sometimes we miss or maybe not focus on could delay us in some of our motives.
That's a very, very good question. Harmonization of regulatory frameworks. One example is the standards.
Yes.
What you find in obtaining in our region, and this is not typical of Uganda and Tanzania, is that the Bureau of Standards issue a certificate. For example, if I have a product like steel, and it's tested by UNBS and given compliance certificate, there's no need to retest it in Tanzania by the Tanzania Bureau of Standards. So what we need to do is to agree that standards between Tanzania and Uganda are harmonized. So this will also reduce the cost of business, because if these products have to be retested, Uganda, for example, I'll take an example of Movit, exports Movit cosmetics. Now they are tested and given compliance by UNBS. Then they should be able to go into the market in Tanzania without retesting, because retesting is cost.
Yes.
And that's where we need to harmonize these standards. The second one is trade in services, which is a very big item now in our region, that a consultant should be able to get into Tanzania and provide certification without going through the the regulatory agencies, they should be acceptable in the whole region. So harmonizing policies and regulations, whether it's in food and drug or in products.
And this is very key, some of the things that you're going to be looking at within the summit.
Yes.
Okay. So what should the people out back here at home expect? Because yes, it's very important that we're looking out for the summit, but the aftermath, even as for you as an ambassador, what do you expect as an immediate aftermath or effect from this particular summit?
We would be very, very happy to see the Ugandan companies and private sector participate, come to Dar es Salaam, explore the opportunities. But post business forum, would be happy to see the volumes, the volumes of trade between our two countries, the participation in the East African crude oil pipeline project. So we would encourage all our people in the private sector to take advantage of these opportunities. Go to the business forum. It's called, the website is businessforum.biz, and register, and we'll be happy to welcome you to Dar es Salaam.
Also, anyone can qualify.
Absolutely, except for exhibitors, the participation in the forum is free. Exhibitors, of course, need a little fee in order to have the booth there, but of course, the products we shall assist in facilitating movement of the products into Tanzania for exhibition.
Okay.
Yes.
So is this going to take us a lot longer than expected to improve on some of these things? Now, like we've talked about the revival of the Central Corridor, and so many other things I know involved with that. Is it going to take us a little longer, or are we expecting a very quick movement?
I think there are quick gains. As soon as we go, for example, the final investment decision for ECOP, our companies will start participating in providing local content. The revival of Uganda Airlines, to come to Dar es Salaam.
Which you said you can't wait to.
Yes, to come to Dar es Salaam, we have got a special rate of $249 round trip, and it's a direct flight. So it will be an opportunity for our people to, first of all, use the airline and promote the route, but also that fare is lower than any other airline in the region. So they are quick hanging fruit. In the summit itself, we hope that our heads of state will give us guidance. There are things we could do, for example, removing work permit fees between Ugandans and Tanzanians. We have already hundreds of Tanzanian students coming to Ugandan schools who pay the same fees as Ugandans. So we would expect that some of these bottlenecks to trading can be removed. And since we have the highest authorities in the land, it wouldn't be very difficult.
It wouldn't be. That is very true.
Yes.
Now, please, I would want for you to give a final word to the people that are watching out there in regards to this particular summit, but also in regards to the relations between Tanzania and Uganda in itself. Like we said, it would seem to have been, you know, within the region, this is the first of its kind with Tanzania specifically. So you can talk to the people out there. This
for you viewers, Uganda and Tanzania, who have been historical allies, need to move beyond the politics and go into economics and business, do business with each other, trade across borders, and we at the High Commission in Dar es Salaam are really ready to assist in facilitating this.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it. And I know this is going to yield very, very good results for us at the end of the day. You've talked about the opportunities, and could be challenging, yes, but that's a step to move ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time. As you can see, we've been looking at the current situation and focusing still on the summit here, the inaugural Tanzania-Uganda Business Summit. Now, like I said, it's very important. We've had strong political ties, but have we taken advantage of what we can both offer economically to, you know, the fact that we are neighboring, we have something to give, something to offer. We've looked at the oil and gas and what role each of us is playing. Well, I must say something. Many people, this is not from me, many people are saying Uganda seems to be lagging behind. I know we had, you know, wound up. Uganda seems to be lagging behind. And our neighboring, like Kenya, Tanzania, seem to be fast-tracking on some of these things.
Yeah. No, for the ECOP, we're doing it right. Okay. Not fast, but right. Okay. And so I have hope that we shall get to the final investment decision. Okay. Yes.
That's a very good answer and a smart one. Yeah, like I said earlier on, we have the High Commissioner here, that is Richard Kabonero, and of course Ambassador to Tanzania. They're representing and also making sure that we are able to see changes and improvements as the East African region. And now we're focusing on Tanzania itself and Uganda to achieve an improvement economically, help each other out one way or another. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You're a very busy man.
Thank you very
so
much.
I will let you move on. But you're still watching Business Today. My name is Rowena Kajumba, and my colleague Dennis Sigora is going to be joining me shortly as we continue our discussion.
No single individual dominated economic thinking during Museveni's presidency more than Emmanuel Tumusiime Mutebile, the free market fundamentalist, who is serving a hitherto unprecedented third five-year term as governor of Bank of Uganda. Probably his success in the field of economics is what prevented him from pursuing a political career which he had embarked on earlier on in life, when he became Guild President of Makerere University in the early 1970s. He won a fierce debate with Dr. Ezra Suruma, who was less inclined towards market economics and went on to have almost free rein to run the economy, first as Secretary to the Treasury and later as the Bank of Uganda Governor. Emmanuel Tumusiime Mutebile is a Ugandan economist and banker. He is the governor of the Bank of Uganda, the Central Bank of Uganda. He was first appointed to that position on 1st January 2001 and was reappointed for a second 5-year term on 1st January 2006. In December 2015, he was reappointed for a fourth 5-year term, effective 12th January 2016. Since 2006, he has been a visiting professor in the Department of Economics at Makerere University, the oldest and largest university in Uganda. Tumusiime Mutebile is the Chancellor of the International University of East Africa, a private university established in 2011 with an urban campus in Kampala, Uganda's capital. Between the year 1979 and 1984, Tumusiime Mutebile was appointed to several government positions in Uganda, ranging from Deputy Principal Secretary to the President at State House in 1979, to Under Secretary in the Ministry of Planning in 1981, where he rose to Senior Economist and then Chief Economist in 1984. In 1992, he was appointed Permanent Secretary to the newly combined Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, a merger that he had advocated while working under Minister of Finance, Gerald Sendaula. He is the longest-serving chief executive in the Bank of Uganda's history. He is credited with many of the sound economic policies adopted by the Uganda government at the urging of the central bank during the 1990s and the first decade of the 2000s. Tumusiime Mutebile attended Kigezi College, Butobere, for his O-level studies. He then attended Makerere College School in Kampala for his A-level studies. In 1970, he entered Makerere University, where he was elected president of the University Students' Guild. He was forced to flee Uganda in 1972 after he gave a speech publicly criticizing the expulsion of Asians from the country by Idi Amin. He fled to England via Tanzania and was able to finish his studies at Durham University, graduating with an upper second in economics and politics. In October 1974, he began his postgraduate studies at Balliol College, Oxford, before returning to East Africa. He entered the University of Dar es Salaam to lecture and conduct research while pursuing his doctorate in economics. In 2009, Nkumba University, a private university based in Nkumba near Entebbe, awarded him an honorary Doctor of Philosophy degree in recognition of his great contribution towards the development of Uganda's financial sector. Have you completed Senior 4 or Senior 6 and you want to do a 2-year certificate or a diploma course? Makerere Institute for Social Development, an affiliate to Makerere Business School, offers programs in accounting and finance, business administration, procurement and supplies management, social work and social administration, information technology, counseling and guidance, human resource, project planning and management, journalism, secretarial studies, and many others. We are located on Sir Apollo Kegwa Road, next to Oilcom Petrol Station, with a UBTEP Center number.
Well, I'm glad you're still with us, and my colleague Dennis Sigoa has joined me, and we'll be looking at a number of things. Of course, still, within the same line. But before we do that, I know there's a very interesting one that we still have there, but we did see His Excellency quite busy, very, very busy for a while now. He has been he did commission the first ever electric fence, Dennis. First ever electric fence around Queen Elizabeth National Park. Now, Queen Elizabeth National Park, very huge park, takes on different districts, by the way. And because now they're looking at, for example, the elephants that have been a problem within the communities for a while. To avoid them, going out there and disrupting, people within the communities and things like that. But this is something, of course, for the tourism sector, quite important. I
find it very important. Anyway, it's that electric fence, I don't know how many kilometers it's going to cover, but it's not covering a very big chunk of the park, because honestly,
just about 10 kilometers.
10 kilometers. Because in the recent years we've been having issues of human-wildlife conflict, whereby elephants cross into the community, destroy people's matoke and whatever. Of course, you know what the community does. Sometimes they retaliate. Not only elephants, you had the case of the lions some time back, where the lions also cross into when the lions were poisoned. Like we lost about 12 lions last year,
and a child was killed. So the whole
leopard. But I think the electric fence is I think it's a very it's a good initiative. It's a very proactive approach. Of course, it comes with a lot of costs. That's why we have realized they cannot. It was just like we normally call it a hotspot. Basically, a hotspot is wherever this is the area where this wildlife probably prefer crossing, crossing into the community. So sure, we in the coming years, let's hope it will be.
Well, we're expecting that to cover the entire area, but we're first focusing.
If you cover the entire park, it becomes a zoo.
Exactly, it becomes a zoo. So I hadn't thought about that, but
that's why then you see the Mzungus, whatever the tourists spend a lot of money to come here, because they want to see these animals in the wild.
In the wild,
so when you've covered the entire place, the way you've covered the rhino sanctuary, in Nakasongola, then becomes more of a zoo because you don't see it in the wild. And actually, but I think I've seen remember I also did a feature some time back, and that one of Noya, the other side of Noya, whereby they are using a gun called the bang gun. I don't know, one of my best
to scare them away,
to scare the elephants away. Whereby I saw some guy getting some matchboxes, makes something, mixes it, then. I don't know, it was some
more like a fireworks arrangement.
Then besides of course, there are very many ways of that have been implemented over the years by Uganda Wildlife Authority, as well as the Ministry of Tourism in curbing human-wildlife conflict. Of course, not the electricity fence, but there's also other alternatives. Like we have they dig the trenches, that long trench. You've seen the story I did.
I saw it. Yes.
Then there's a new one that has been, I think it's Wildlife Foundation that has been funding it, the use of chili.
Oh yeah, the chilies. And I think the chilies do work.
Yeah, the use of chili, whereby you grow chili near the edges of the park, so that when elephants smell it, they go back. As well, there is that one of the beehive, the one we did. So you see, there's so many other alternatives. But also the electricity fence is good, but of course electricity is very expensive. And just know that sometimes we have issues where power goes off. So when power goes
very common.
And I'm so sure
it's normal now. It's okay.
Power goes off. If power goes off, I'm so sure this elephant. By the way, from what the research that has been done, they say elephants are very clever.
Yeah, they're very smart.
Someone said, I read in some book recently.
Their memory.
50
years back.
150 years. If something wrong happens to it here today, 50 years from today, if that elephant comes here, it will recall.
Regardless of what changes happen.
What changes. So that is the memory. So they get used to this place. So they also try to see, does this thing really work? So you can imagine if it comes and taps it and power has gone off.
I know. But here we go.
So besides that, it's a very good, you can look at the fence there.
But like you said, if they're focusing at that particular sport where they feel is where the challenge is, why not? I like you said, it wouldn't be very, very good if we took on the whole park, because then first of all it would be costly, and then like you said, it would put away the whole feel of, you know, it's a park and people paying much money to come and see them in the wild, you know. So yeah, but then very good initiative. Yeah, very good initiative.
Very good for conservation.
Yeah.
But let me hope the public has also been sensitized about the dangers of that wire.
Yeah, because then we'll have, because that's the first thing that came to my mind.
If an electricity fence can shock an elephant for it to, you know how big an elephant is, until it takes off. Just imagine what it can do to a human being.
To a human being.
And we have, they say, us, we tend to have our eyes on our ears, in our hands. Sometimes we can caution
some people believe by
feeling.
Yeah. Does it work? And I think very important, because the people, it's very, very important, really. Now, that is.
Then soon you'll hear cases from the same area that people have died. Why? The same fence as well?
Yeah, and I think we shouldn't sit back and relax also. We shouldn't sit back and relax. We should still work with the people to know that, you know, there might be conflict still, and we need to find a way of working around it well together. Now, there's a lot we do have. Now, going back to what we had a discussion earlier on with His Excellency, the Ambassador, we were looking at what the summit would mean to us, Tanzania, Uganda. But we also know that within the East African region, this could be its first for Tanzania and Uganda, but we've had a number of them. We're looking at Kenya and Uganda, and there was one very recent, still happening, in Mombasa.
I'll be in Mombasa next weekend, of course. For the Uganda, Tanzania, it's a more the Uganda, Kenya, I would say it's a symposium. More, I'll also call it more of a trade and business summit, because you know very well there's a very big relationship between Kenya and Uganda, and it has gone for I think more of a century now. So basically, I was trying to think about this as I saw you interviewing as I was watching your interview with the ambassador, and I'm realizing there's a lot of, I think, in the last few weeks and this second half of the year, I think there are a lot of business summits that are targeting Uganda generally. Because one, I know of this summit that is going to be in Mombasa next weekend, whereby it's a summit, it's a symposium. They call it symposium, where URA is going to be there. Of course, the KPAs, Kenya Ports Authorities, of course, our consulate in Nairobi. So it has been organized in Mombasa. But remember, again, on 5th and 6th of next month, I think it's next month, we have the Uganda-Kenya Business Summit in Kampala. So you can imagine, the Tanzania one ends on 5th, but on the same 5th, the Kenya-Uganda. So I'm trying to understand, who is trying to woo who? What is what?
Well, it seems we are wooing each other. Because who
is wooing who?
And I think it's very smart for looking at the East African region or East African community, because it's high time.
Of course.
This is the time. They've had, you know, as the East African community, they've had these discussions, but it's high time that we're seeing the business community say, well, let us also push, especially the private sector, let us also push, and, you know, we need the open market, because at the end of the day, every time we have the limitations, like we say, of course, the policy has to come back down to, exactly. But I think it's a very wise
decision. Yeah, I think it's it's just a matter of now strategizing. It shouldn't be a matter of having summits. Summit is more of a workshop or a conference. Let's go on ground. Recently, I'll be honest, I was somewhere. I was riding on a border. I had crossed from Busia going to, for the first time, I just wanted to get a feel of a border ride from Busia to Tororo. And I passed a certain section, and someone told me, do you know this road where you are? This is Uganda, this is Kenya, and this is Uganda. Like, are you sure? Like, yes, this area, actually, if anything happens to you and you cross this other side, you know, it's not about crime. But this guy here, it's just a road that separates. So we actually want people, despite it's only the boundaries that, of course, the Mzungus or the colonialists brought here, which was easier to govern.
Boundaries were not considered.
If you don't do it, of course, like as well as Europe, you have to find a way of governing. You cannot. Sometimes it's very difficult to govern a very huge population, which was a very.
And of course, considering that we're looking at some of these routes that we've used for more than years, thousands of years, and now we're seeing that we need to improve and look at how best to work along with each other. Very, very important. Now we do have a report on this. Let's take a look real quick.
This water vessel that is undergoing rehabilitation at Port Bell Luzira will ply the roads of Chiyindi and Buvuma Island on Lake Victoria. With a capacity of 240 people and 6 trucks, the ferry is expected to improve marine transport on Lake Victoria.
And this ferry we have started rehabilitating from January, and we are about to finish the all underwater work to undock the ship. So offload works are still pending, and which we plan to finish by September. And this ferry will be in operation within this year.
State Minister for Works General Katumba Wamala visited the marine rehabilitation workshop at Port Bell.
Issues of focus include strengthening cooperation and enhancing coordination and partnerships among stakeholders in the trade value chain. This will support the business community in utilizing the electronic single window for customs clearance of goods.
Our tea, which is one of our major exports, gets its way to the international market through the port of Mombasa. So there is a genuine reason for us to look at Mombasa as a strategic port for us. And when we bring that symposium in Mombasa, we are really addressing issues that affect our business community and our producers and our actors.
Providing increased understanding of key trends in combating counterfeit products, enlightening the tax policy and administration and the rationale to pay taxes will also be discussed.
It also helps to identify and understand why are we taxed. Because if you pay your taxes and you don't see any service rendered, you get annoyed. But when you go to such a symposium, you see what the money that is charged from your tax, what it is doing. I think it's one of the major issues that will help us in understanding and appreciating why such symposiums are taking place.
Then, the standard gauge railway whose construction is yet to kick off in Uganda.
We are bound by the SGR protocol, which was signed by Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, and Sudan as the partner countries where this project is going to take place. We have been following up all the regional directives regarding the SGR, and as far as we're concerned, it's progressing well on the Ugandan side, and it's being planned to take place in accordance with the protocol that was signed.
Another challenge facing East African member countries despite the EAC protocol is both tariff and non-tariff barriers. This was downplayed by the head of public diplomacy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Alfred Nam.
We have a customs union. A customs union, East African Customs Union, means only goods within the East African Community area will not have tariffs. But all other goods that are imported into the region from abroad, those goods attract tariffs. So I think I should make it very clear there.
The third Trade and Business Facilitation Symposium is organized in collaboration with the High Commission of the Republic of Uganda in Nairobi. Slated for 12th to 14th August 2019, it will establish a platform for information sharing among its partners and stakeholders. Henry Okrut, UBC.
Well, we all agree it's important.
It's all about business, I can see.
Yes, and I like that we said it's a target here. We're looking at a target. And I also appreciate that on our part, we're looking at improving certain things. We're talking about our maritime, looking at how best we can take advantage of our water.
Yes.
But then, and then to decongest, all of this other, we're looking at road transport. But then we've been struggling a bit. However, there's good news. You give us a report here on looking at Buvuma Island and Kayindi on Lake Victoria there. They'll be getting a new ferry.
Yeah, of course. Before you move to the ferry, of course, I saw the story sneaked in. It was actually, I think it was some of these things happened.
Well, we're the
some of these things happened. So there are new developments. I think basically this entire region we have targets and basically industrialization target, middle income targets, and getting to achieve this target will only need concerted efforts because you cannot go into all this as a country. Like you have to go in as like a region.
A region, yeah.
Because there's that saying, I don't know how they rephrase it, that if you want to go very fast, move alone, but if you have to go far, move with others.
Yeah.
You know? So that is it. That's what I think is happening at the moment. So we realize there's a lot of effort within the region. Of course, right now you've seen, we can actually say that in our business program this morning, it has been about the regional trade initiatives, or trade and business initiative, whereby we do have Tanzania and Uganda, as well as Kenya and Uganda. Of course, and if it touches this, obviously there's a chain, because if goods come from Dar es Salaam through the port of Mwanza to Port Bell, and it's heading towards to South Sudan, so it's generally it's a regional thing. Everyone benefits. I think every other country benefits, because like you saw, the consignment of goods that came on that ferry, the ship from Mwanza was heading to South Sudan. It was actually not ours.
And it's good that they pointed out how much money they saved.
They saved $2 million.
Yeah, that's a whole
$2 million
lot.
is a lot of money. And someone brought out this, and EC said, you know, probably WFP has been the only, like the biggest customer, because for the last 12 months they might have done like 80% of the shipment using.
So it saves about 40%.
But they say the fact is this: what you know, the work of WFP World Food Program is humanitarian. So if the situations normalizes and everything is okay in South Sudan or DRC or whatever, then definitely means you will not need, there won't be any more humanitarian supply. So what does that mean to this kind of maritime transport? It might easily grind to a halt. So basically what they're talking about is that let's try and bring in the private sector, because for sustainability of this entire cause needs the private sector. The private sector, you understand very well what they do. Indeed. So we cannot rely on WFP or UN, wherever, for quite some time. So which I think is a very important thing.
Private players.
There are very many advantages that come with maritime transport or rail. Cuts cost, environmental issues, you know. So if we decide to talk about this, we might easily
not even
the program.
Indeed. Yeah. So let's take a look real quick. It's quite brief, so you know.
Going rehabilitation at Port Bell Luzira will ply the roads of Chiyindi and Buvuma Island on Lake Victoria. With a capacity of 240 people and 6 trucks, the ferry is expected to improve marine transport on Lake Victoria.
And this ferry we have started rehabilitating from January, and we are about to finish the all underwater work to undock the ship. So offload works are still pending, and which we plan to finish by September. And this ferry will be in operation within this year.
State Minister for Works General Katumba Wamala visited the marine rehabilitation workshop at Port Bell Luzira. The ferry is rehabilitated by Southern Engineering, a marine and offshore engineering company with funding from UNRWA.
Underwater itself, almost 70% steel we have removed.
The durability is very good.
The new development reaffirms government's commitment to link the Lake Victoria Islands to the mainland. Dennis Igoa for UBC News.
Well, thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome, Rowena.
Okay, now real quick, because our time has run out, in regards to all of this that we've been discussing on this particular day, in regards to the regional trade and how best to improve it, the different ways that we are looking at as a region to improve on our trade or business environment.
So basically, because considering the time that we have, and I think as Business Today is one program that I think everyone should be glued on every other morning, because we tend to bring the trending stories, local and global. And as in the next couple of months, we've been discussing issues of this summit and whatever. We'll be having special editions.
Definitely.
Because special editions of these discussions rather than just stories we can. Because our crew from UBC will be in Mombasa as well as in Dar es Salaam, and some of these things will definitely package it so that people can see the opportunities. Because the discussions that are going to be taking place in Dar es Salaam as well as Mombasa all It's just about, it's a symposium, opportunities. Where can Uganda benefit? Where does Kenya benefit? Which challenges do exist in the central as well as the northern corridor? How do we iron out our differences? You know, all this is very pertinent. And we hope in the coming month or whatever, the situation also normalizes on the other side. That is on the Rwanda side. Because at the end of the day, they really have to be with us. You know, sometimes you say, it's not like, sometimes there are some rifts. But rifts or whatever should not interfere with something. You can see this. This is trade. Trade and business is what will take our region to another level in the coming years, and what will enable all these other countries achieve their targets, middle income and whatever socioeconomic goals, you know, all those things. So we hope that Rwanda will be here. For quite some time we've not been getting any info. We know the border is still the way it was some time back. So yeah, sure. So trade, that is where we're heading to. Yeah. That is it. It's revolutionary.
It's high time.
Yeah, sure.
Indeed. It is the right time too. Well, thank you, Dennis. And I'm very glad that you made time as well.
Yeah.
Because you're very busy.
And Friday will also be here next week.
That would
so
be
that
interesting.
We can hope that by then we'll have compiled something from
Tanzania.
No, not yet. I'll be setting off for Mombasa.
Oh, you're not going to? Okay, all right, awesome.
If possible, we can go together, right?
Well, thank you so much for watching. My name is Rowena Kajumba, my colleague here. Thank you for watching us. Business Today, we come Monday to Friday, 9 to 10. Have yourselves a lovely weekend from us on the entire team.